It's another inverse battle, and it's Gray versus Gajeel, or Gajeel versus Gray. So I got 3 scenarios, and I'll be honest, on the last one I kind of played games with it. Not gonna lie, but so on the first scenario, it's during Tender Island. So Gray and Gajeel versus Tender Island, each other during Tender Island. So that time, right? The strength was Gajeel. Gajeel was physically stronger than Gray, and he was protecting Levy in the forest, the best he could. He kind of got jumped, but he still stood on business and took care of what he needed to. He was the first one to get attacked by Grimoire Heart. Then Gray, he was, running around with the group, protecting people in his group. But he was running around here and there. He fought somebody over there, he fought somebody over there. But still, Gajeel has the strength on him to hold down in the fights he's in. Gray had to get help for Hades, of course. He wasn't gonna fight that shit by himself. He fought every fight he had by himself. Speed. Oh, actually, he did have some help, but Gray had more help during his fight. Speed is Gray. Gray is faster. At the beginning. During Tender Island, he's faster. He has better speed. He's just quicker moving. Now, later on, things change, though. Durability goes to Jalal, though. Or not Jalal. Goddamn. Gajeel. My bad. Jalal's going to be in another video. Durability goes to Gajeel. He's made of iron, so, it's hard to, damage the guy. Gray could get cut real easily. He's kind of, softy. But Gray can hold down in a fight for a long time. He can play the long game if he has to. If he has to play the long game with somebody, he's one that can do that. Even if he's cut the fuck up, bleeding out, he's still fighting. And then his intelligence, that goes to Gray. Gajeel's not the smartest guy, Experience, though, goes to Gajeel. He's a dragon slayer. He had trained with the dragons from the time he was a boy and shit. And then he got separated from the dragon and he started doing his own thing. Close skills go to Gajeel. Range skills go to Gray. Ice make cannon. Ice make spears. He uses a lot of range skills with that. Not a lot of close skills, too much. Recoup, though, goes to Gray. Gray was able to be in so many fights because he had better recoup than Gajeel. That's why he was in so many fights. And he's a part of the main group, too. And that's why, hacks go to Gray as well. They wanted Gray to be a part of that final fight and not Gajeel. And the environment also goes to Gray because guess what? Tender Island's fairy tale, and fairy tale was more meaningful to Gray than Gajeel, especially at that time. Gajeel was still learning how to become a member of fairy tale and fighting for, people who have the emblem of fairy tale, and creating that relationship with that girl called Levy. So in the first scenario, 7-4, I got Gray winning that one. But after the time skip and they go into the Grand Magic Games, that's where shit changes. So during the Grand Magic Games, if they're fighting each other at that point, Gajeel has the strength. He had to fight against Rogue twice in the tournament. The first time he didn't get to fight him because Nazi wanted to steal the glory, but the second time he definitely, fought a harder opponent than Gray did. And Gray fought against Rufus. Rufus used, memory make magic. It sounds powerful, but I'm pretty sure that Gajeel had it harder. he had to awaken new magic to fight this guy. The guy he fought. Gajeel did. Speed goes to Gajeel now because he can move in the shadows. And they move pretty fast. Gray wouldn't be able to touch Gajeel, not at that point. He'd be like, where is he? And he'd pop out of the shadow, boom, hit him real quick. Durability goes to Gajeel too, because he still has the iron on him. Because he still has that iron body of the Iron Dragon, so the dragon skills. Because durability or endurance goes to Gray still, though. Like I said, he likes to play games and drag his fights out long. Gajeel don't do that, but he does. Gray does that shit still. Intelligence goes to Gray as well. Gajeel has more experience, though. Close skills go to Gajeel as well. He'll run up and hit him with, his iron club. Have him eat metal, He likes to run up and, fuck people up. He likes to be up close and personal. And he also has range skills, too. The Iron Shadow Dragon Slaying Roar, that's not something that Gray could, hold down against. He would, be fucked up. He'd be cooked after getting hit by that. Gray has the recoup, though. Hacks go to Gajeel, though, during the Grand Magic Games. Like I said, he obtained the Iron Shadow Dragon Slaying Magic. Dual attributes of Shadow and Iron. He looked like a fucking demon. People know what, form I'm talking about. And then the environment goes to Gray. Did I say Gray? Yeah, it goes to Gray. Because, again, he has better ties to Fairy Tail, and anywhere Fairy Tail's at, Gray feels a connection better than Gajeel, so he'll fight harder. When the Fairy Tail emblem's apparent, and he's like, oh, that's my family. Gajeel's, kind of feeling that way more, but still more so like that with Gray. And he has the attachment to, that guild. So, if he's fighting for them, he's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to make sure I, fight for them. They could get hurt or whatever. Gajeel's kind of like, with his demon form, he don't give a fuck. He just wants to fight his opponent. But still, Gajeel wins that exchange. Because, like I said, he has the Iron Shadow Dragon Slaying form of the two attributes of the Dragon Slaying magic. And then the second time, or the third scenario. Now, this one, I had to, get cool with this one. Not even. I was actually kind of not cool with this one. I'll be honest. But I like to say, what I say here. So strength goes to Gajeel on this one. And this is during the Alvarez fight. So they're fighting in Magnolia, where they were fighting in Alvarez. At this point, Gray does have some upgrades. But Gajeel still has the speed, to me. If he goes into a shadow and he runs around like that, I don't think Gray can, catch him. He has to, get creative with his ice, and he does have the ability to do that. Durability goes to Gajeel as well during this time. Endurance goes to, or Gajeel has the durability, and then Gray has the endurance. He was in long fights during that arc too. Intelligence goes to Gray. Like I said, he's gonna have to use his head against Gajeel here. Experience goes to Gajeel on this one. Close skills also go to Gajeel on this one. Range skills, though, go to Gray. He still has the range skills. Or he has better range skills because he has the Ice Devil Slaying magic. It doesn't slow down Gajeel at all. But he can freeze Gajeel in his tracks if he does things right. He sets a trap right. Recoup goes to Gray. And that's because of the Ice Devil Slaying Magic. And then when Gajeel goes into that form, he's usually, on the back foot. And he was never one to, like, recoup fast anyways. Hacks go to Gray. Or not Gray. Gajeel. I still give it to him with the Dragon Slaying attributes, both of them.
Right now it's showing like an hour.
He had to fight somebody who used curses, Gray had to fight against somebody who was just, heating calls to fucking Zeref Dick, who was an ice wizard. Gray should have won that. He can devour ice. If he lost, something wrong. Gajeel fighting against a guy who's a curse, like the, 9 demon gates. And that guy's tough. He almost went to hell, but he was saved by Universe 1. I did give the environment to Gray, though, because he's fighting for Fairy Tail. Who would fight harder for Fairy Tail? It would be Gray. He's been there the longest. He, has more experience with that guild, not his magic. That's why I still say Gajeel wins this fight. But this is an extreme diff fight. This last one, because the Ice Devil Slaying Magic helps Gray out a lot. But I think Gajeel still comes out on top because that lost magic of the Dragon Slayer is something that shouldn't be slept upon. That's all I'm saying. And with 2 attributes, that helps him out too, of Shadow and Iron. So be cool on the corner. So when it comes to Gray versus Gajeel, I got Gajeel winning it most of the time. But it's always close, towards the later part of the series. And that's what Green Angel says about those two.